Greetings, YouTubers. This is Arndelft. Today, I just went and watched Star Trek Beyond, and I'm just giving a bit of a review on it. I will do my best to not actually put any spoilers into this video. However, in case any of those slip out, my apologies, but if you're not ready for any spoilers on the movie, you probably shouldn't watch this and just, go watch it yourself. Well, first off, I want to go ahead and give my rating of the movie, especially in comparison to its predecessors. Now, since this is my first movie review, and that's especially important since I have not reviewed the previous movies, I will go ahead and give those now. To give a little bit of background knowledge on this before I begin, I was extremely skeptical when the first movie came out. Reason being is a lot of modern movies suck in the fact that they seem to try too hard to do everything. They try too hard with humor. They try too hard to make people act like people. They try too hard at pretty much everything in a lot of modern movies, which is really irritating because it's not that hard to make things feel natural. Now, in the first movie, I expected it to be bad. And the main reason was because time travel is, to me, super corny. And by definition of corny, I mean just plain stupid. It's like a cheap way to try and go back and fix mistakes. And the fact that they were doing that with Star Trek, especially since I love Star Trek Deep Space Nine, really made me miffed. And honestly, there are so many holes in every single time they try to do timelines. In every single show, movie, or anything else that's ever tried to delve into it, it's stupid. Beyond reasoning. I poke holes in it when I'm bored and irritated. Long story short, I was completely surprised by number one. It was well done. It was methodical. The characters were real. Nothing truly was forced. And not to mention, I loved a lot of the humor that they managed to put into it naturally. Not like there was a crap ton, but, it was all around a really squared off movie. And it was awesome. High quality for movies all around. Out of 10 stars, I would give that Star Trek 8. Which, if anyone who knows me is watching this, knows that that's flattery coming from me. Because I am really harsh on storylines. Moving on to Star Trek Into Darkness. Well, this is where things get a little dicey. And by dicey, I mean awesome. Because Star Trek Into Darkness was an amazing movie. It had all the good character traits of one, except expanded on. In other words, the characters were growing and evolving with each other. They were still not remotely forced. They were amazing. I honestly enjoyed Star Trek Into Darkness. And I would recommend that movie to anyone. And to blow my mind even further, it earned a 9 out of 10 stars. In other words, in my not so humble opinion, there was barely any room for improvement. By the way, there is always room for improvement. But when you're to the point where you're pretty much almost where there's no room for improvement, it's amazing. Mind you, a 10 out of 10 stars is technically perfection, but as I said, and there's always room for improvement. But there comes a point where something is just so beautiful that you're worried that if you work on it more, you're going to mess it up because it's so good. That's 10 out of 10 stars. By the way, I have never really seen that. I mean, I know there's there's actually a few bits and pieces of things out there that I know of that I would give a 10 out of 10 stars to because of just how good they are. But we'll go ahead and leave that for another time. Now, the third Star Trek, my review on it, 7 out of 10 stars. Star Trek Beyond earned 7 out of 10 stars, and that's kind of flattering it. I'm tempted to give it 6. However, 6 is where you drop into that almost at the half, which is bad. It was still a high quality movie in a lot of ways. And I'd still say 7. So yeah, squared off 7. Now, considering the first was 8, the second was 9, and I was hoping the third would be 10, but it fell down past the second, past the first, down to 7. My reasoning. Well, just about every reason I had for saying the first 2 were good was a lot of my reasons for saying the third one wasn't. The acting felt forced. The scenes felt rushed. I felt like I was only getting bits and pieces in a lot of areas to boot, which downs the quality altogether. And there were points where I legitimately wondered what was actually going on. Like, I understood basic concept, somebody's dying in this scene, but I didn't understand how or anything like that. And the characters, when I put myself in their position, would have been more puzzled about the how. They would have talked about it, they would have puzzled over it right then and there, or in the next available scene where they were present. Things like that. And finally, a bit of the last nail in the coffin for me in this movie was that there were scenes where it was predictable. Anyone who knows me knows that predictability is the one unforgivable mistake. Now, for anyone who, like me, has basically chopped up storylines and how they're supposed to be in order to be thrilling to audiences, pretty much every storyline is going to be predictable after that, because you can predict where the highs are going to be, where the lows are going to be, and everything in between. Which means there's always that level of predictability. So when I say predictability, I mean that where you look at a scene and you know pretty much what's about to happen next. And there were several instances in that movie where I predicted what was about to happen next and was proven right, which was very disappointing in the extreme. I hate it passionately when I can successfully predict what's going to happen and I'm proven right. And when I predict what's going to happen and I'm proven wrong, it's usually a pleasant surprise. Usually. Sometimes they just go with something that was absolutely awful, which, I don't know, when you decide just to throw in something awful because, I don't know, you lacked imagination, I don't know what. I just don't know. Why'd you even bother? But the movie all round is still something I'd recommend. I would not recommend going and seeing it at full price in the full price theaters. I'd either wait till you can, rent it or stream it, depending if it ever goes to Netflix or anything like that. By the way, Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness were on Netflix for a little while, then they got removed. I don't know the details on that, so I can't say why. But I would doubt that it would go to there. But long story short, I don't recommend going and seeing it at full price, and I don't recommend buying the movie brand new. However, Star Trek Into Darkness, I own both of them. They are both superb movies. However, I will be extremely unlikely to buy Star Trek Into Darkness at full price. I might eventually get it if I happen to see it used on a shelf, maybe $10, which is half the normal new movie price. I might buy it then, or possibly order it. Depends. But yeah, it did not have the feel that you want out of... Well, basically, if you watch the first two and you thoroughly enjoyed them, be prepared to be a little disappointed with the third one. Which, dare I say, I expected the second one to be worse. Because quality eventually degrades with these people. Eventually they start getting lazy. And they don't put as much effort in because they've already got a following. And their fans are just so gung-ho they don't notice all the mistakes. Now, I will eventually pick apart any movie. Pretty much. Any story, I will eventually tear to pieces. But I do my reviews on my initial impressions. And my initial impressions of 1 and 2 were both very positive. So I'm basing it off of those. Sheer quality. And in the theater, watching Star Trek Beyond for the first time, I tore it to pieces. Which, considering I was there to try and enjoy myself and basically have fun, was extremely disappointing. Yes. But still a good movie. Not great, but good movie. And I honestly loved it. And no, Penny, you may not go out and eat everyone. It's not allowed. She's eyeing the door. Yes, I see you. You're a pretty girl. Yes. Yes, I love you too. That happened. I just meant to give her a light kiss, and she just kissed me right back. Anyways, as I was saying, long story short, yes, good movie, not great. First two, loved. Third one, not so much. If anybody has any feedback, I'd love to hear from you in the comment section below. Just your thoughts on it, especially if you've already seen the movie. What do you think? What was your initial, mind you, we're going off first impressions. Because if I ever do buy this movie and watch it over and over again, I will rip it apart even further. Like, detailed review, tear it to pieces. At this point, I can pick out almost every single inconsistency in Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness because I own them both and I loved them so much I watched them over and over and over. And I ripped them to pieces in my head, but still, ironically, enjoyed them because they were high quality. The third one, I'll tear to pieces if I ever do get around to buying it and watch it again and again. But initial reviews. If anybody, goes, watches Star Trek Beyond, initial review, have any feedback, love to hear from you. Tell me what you thought of the movie, etc. If you liked this video, genuinely liked it, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, and for whatever reason, that's what the thumbs down button is for, just so you know. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of content and you'd like to see more, you can go ahead and subscribe. This is my first movie review, so it's kind of an experiment. I don't know, so if I get any subscribers from this, I'll know to do more. Well, in any case, I will go ahead and bid thee adieu. Don't get into too much trouble, or do. It's always up to you. Toodles.